Hi, I'm Tony Williams, and you're once again welcome to Knowing What I Now Know. As I always say at the start of all my videos, I like to take the start of the video to appreciate and acknowledge every single person who, in one way or the other, has given me some form of feedback on my previous posts. For those who did it by phone, by email, by inboxing, those who did it face to face, I want to say a big heartfelt thank you to you guys, and I honestly want to say you're the guys who constantly fill my tank to enable me keep on doing what I'm doing, because regardless of how passionate you are about something sometimes, if you are not getting the appropriate feedback from the wider audience, it could be a little bit disheartening. But just by way of the feedback that I get from you guys, I know, or you've allowed me to know, that some of these posts, and it might not necessarily be all of it, are impacting certain people out there in a positive manner. And for me, that's all I need to carry on doing what I'm doing. If it's just one life I'm able to affect or impact in a proper manner, then my job is done. So thank you very much for your feedback. For those of you who perchance might be seeing me for the very first time, the way the blog is designed, a blog which is called Knowing What I Now Know, is for it to be self-help, transformational and motivational series of videos based around my own life story, where I've been, where I am, where I'm going to, and the mistakes highlighting the mistakes that I've made along my journey of life, and using those mistakes and experiences and the lessons that I've learned from my failure, my success, and my consistency at this point in time, to help, save another person from making the same mistakes that I've made in the past. And so the way the videos has been rolled out is for it to be, a step-by-step follow-up on how, individually, if you do desire that change from within yourself and think, this is a journey I want to work, I want to walk, I'm tired of the way I'm living, broke, busted and disgusted from hand to mouth, or I get it all and I spend it all, I've got 10 girls, don't take care of my kids, whatever it might be that the issue is, but if you just got to that place where you think, one of these things, slowly but steadily I need to start eradicating it so I could have a more purposeful life, or a purposeful journey for the rest of my life, then the way I've decided to roll out the videos is for it to address one issue at a time. And I've put it out in a way in which I think in the order of which I think is what is most important for you to identify within that process of change that you so desire. So if you are, and I always say this, so if you are seeing this for the very first time, it would be helpful to look at the backlog of videos that led up to this, because it brings you in line, on that step-by-step process, of how you begin that process of change, where you are, how you discover yourself there, the decisions you've got to make once you've discovered yourself, people you've got to cut off, people you've got to bring in, action steps you've got to take, and a whole bunch of videos that are, step by step, gradually just sort of spoon feeding you through that journey and process of change, so it can be sustainable, and then it leads you up to this very video, and going further, you could join on. And so, as I said, going further, you can join on to the rest of the videos that I will be putting out. So you could always check that out on my website or YouTube, Facebook, on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat. I'd have links to all the rest that show the full videos. But another way to do it is to easily just sort of subscribe to all my social media platforms. So you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. You could follow me on Facebook, you could follow me on Instagram, you could follow me on Snapchat, you could sign up for my weekly newsletter on my website, Tony Williams with an extra S. That's WILLIAMSS.com. And that will be it. So basically what that does is that as much as I do say that I want to put these posts out every Friday, for some reason I'm just not able to do it at that Friday. Or, for the past 2 or 3 weeks, I haven't been able to do it, on a Friday as I so promised. And I do apologize for that. But the easiest way to do it, as I said, is if you're subscribed or you're on my email list, or you subscribe to any of my channels, you follow me on any of my social media platforms. When any material comes out at all, you get it straight into your inbox first, so you don't have to wait till Friday or check my website or check my social media platform and think, oh, Tony hasn't put anything out this Friday, because you will get it straight as it comes out. So that way we'll all be on this journey together. No one will be missing a thing. I put it out there, you get it. I get feedback from you. Everybody's happy. And we're moving forward as one. So having said that, let's dive right into it. Today I want to talk about failure. And I know when you do mention the word failure to most people, it's a bit harsh, or people look at it and think, failure, like it's a word they don't want to ever sort of identify with, or they don't want to be called a failure, or you call them a failure and they physically attack you, or they get aggressive, or they get defensive, or they get depressed, But I want to sort of find a way of saying that word failure, as far as I'm concerned, it's not exactly what you think it is. And I want to see if I could shift your mindset into looking at failure as being, one side of the same coin, just one side of the same coin, or how can I say that? Looking at failure as one of the sides of a two-sided coin. So the other side of that two-sided coin would be success. So you have failure on one side and you have success on one side. So technically what I'm trying to say is I want to see a way of shifting your mindset so you could actually look at failure as a stepping stone to success, and not as something that confines you or dooms you to, a box of limitation, or no ending, never ending movement again. So it sort of just brings you to a place where you don't move forward ever again, or you avoid ever doing that thing because you think, I failed at it once. Or you look at yourself and you get depressed because you think, everybody thinks I'm a failure. The good news I have for you is that there's literally nobody, no matter what level they are on planet Earth now, or or what level of the success ladder they're on, or even in the hierarchy of needs, who would not say they haven't failed once. And I could prove that to you. Even from babies, we were born, from babies as we were born, we started failing from that stage. How many times did we drop when we were trying to learn how to walk? Perhaps that's even a little bit much for a kid. How many times did our parents try and sit us up and we just slumped to the side, but eventually we learned? Or how many times did we try from that place to learn to crawl, and we just fell flat on our belly, and then in our case they put a little bit of food further down, and then you try and just struggle, and then they put us in strollers, and again we push the stroller, like, yeah, we're good. And then they take us out of the stroller and we try and do the same thing and we fall flat on ourselves. But something inside of us, even as babies who had no tangible process of thought to be able to differentiate between success and failure, we knew we had to get up from that floor and keep walking, or keep practicing to walk, taking those baby steps until we get to that stage where we're walking, where we've taken our first step, baby step, and then you see everyone clapping. Oh, he's walking. Nowadays they take a picture, first steps, And at that point where we take that first step, every single time, or all the thoughts about how many times we dropped has been forgotten there and then. And they encourage us to go forward on those baby steps, and then eventually we begin running, and then, and that's how, the same thing as we learn to write, or we learn our ABC. How many times did we recite it, or how many times did we, write the wrong word, or got our spelling wrong? But over a period of time where we practice and we practice and we practice and we practice, we overcame it. So the news is, every time we dropped, every time we, got our spelling wrong, every time we, we fell when we were sitting down, those were failures. Those were stages of failures. But inside of us is that thing that just constantly geared us on, because we know where we dropped is not where we ought to be. Our mind was locked onto something else, or a vision of what we had to write, or a thought of what the right spelling was locked into our head at that time. And eventually we learned to do it right. But what happens is we grow old, and then we begin to grow old into an environment that judges us, and we begin to listen to what people say, and we begin to get aware of ourselves in an environmental manner, and forget the inbuilt person that was in us initially, that fell when we were young but got up and walked, that got up and ran, that learned his first steps, that was encouraged and clapped for all by yourself. We forget it, and we begin to sort of affiliate ourselves to the environment around us, and start judging ourselves, or start ticking, the pass mark for ourselves based on those worldly standards. And those worldly standards, be it we understand whether it's good, or be it we understand whether it's bad, because that's what they say, and that's what we've allowed to infiltrate our mind, we forget who we are. And so we get to a stage in life where we try something once, and the world marks us wrong, and then the world marks us wrong, and then we just sit there and accept it. And that's why, you see so many people who were successful, in life, that would tell you the story of their failure first. Biggie Smalls. Remember he had that song? Well, this song is going out to all my teachers who thought I was never going to amount to nothing. I don't know, I can't sing the song for my life, but trust me, there was a time that was an anthem. Can I say that right? Anthem, that's it. And I would sing that from the first verse to the last, but all things have gone away, all things have become new. But yeah, and they said to him, you're not going to amount to nothing, you're just going to be a waste man and everything. But he believed in himself, that inner empowerment from within him, that made him take his first steps when he was falling and everything. He didn't let what he heard from his teachers and the society and the environment that he was sort of structured to live by define his life. So he would still go out and sling his shots and have his rap battles, and still have his focus on the goal. And that's eventually how, with persistence, doing the same thing repetitively, he sharpened his talent, overcame that failure. He changed his mindset. He didn't let his mindset sort of click on to what his teachers and all the rest of the people who was around his block that he sang about in that song, who said he wasn't going to amount to nothing. He didn't let his mindset lock onto that. His inner belief, he keyed into it. And that's the only way you could overcome failure. Michael Jordan, isn't it ironic that Michael Jordan is one of the best basketball players, or the world's greatest basketball player, I should say, but he was excluded from his high school team? That must have done something to him. He came up with that quote where he said he could accept most things, or he could even accept. I think it was in the lines of he could accept failure, but he could never accept not trying before he failed. And there are loads of them. Thomas Edison, Abraham Lincoln, a whole bunch of them. And the funniest thing is they say an expert is someone who hath failed repeatedly in a small niche. So you can never become an expert at anything unless you fail repeatedly at it. So you have to fail and know every single way how it doesn't work. And then you learn all the ways that it makes it work. And then you become an expert at it. So imagine if that expert only knows how it works and doesn't know how it doesn't work. Then he can't be called an expert. That's why I said failure is two sides of the same. It's one side of a two-sided coin. So on one side is failure, on the next side is success. So if you begin to look at it that, you experiencing any form of failure now is a stepping stone for you to get to the next level, or for me to get to the next level, which is how I see it anyway, then everything you're experiencing now, you consider it joy, as the Bible says, because you're learning. It is an experience that is painful, but you're learning from it. So I'll bring it closer to home. You meet a girl, or you meet a guy, or your first, for those who didn't marry their first high school sweetheart, or boy, girl, whatever it is, or for those who have gone on to have many more high school sweethearts after that, and none of it works because you didn't marry them. Technically, that's a failed relationship, because if you're not married to the very first person that you fell in love with, and you're married to the 10th person that you fell in love with after that, those 9 relationships are failed relationships. But you did not let that experience that you had in those 9 relationships confine you to not trying for the 10th. So failure can't be selective. The same thing that applies to that relationship, or you trying to find the perfect partner to spend the rest of your life with, should be the same way you should apply that same mental thought to everything else that you failed in life, or that we failed in life. And so it shouldn't be selective. It shouldn't be, unless it's monetary, unless it's a monetary matter, that's the only one that counts. If it's anything else, it's just living. No. That's the deception that we allow the environment and our minds to play on us. And that's where the power of our thoughts come in. Because if you use your thoughts to harness, the right pitch or to visualize, I beg your pardon, to visualize the right picture as often as you could. No matter what the goal is, no matter what the desire is, there's only one outcome that you would want from it. And that would be an outcome that would align with your purpose. It's not always right to look at failure as, something that confines you to a specific position because you don't attain your desired goal at that very specific point. Because from the beginning of age, as human beings, we fail repeatedly in most of the things that we do anyway. But we tend to have a selective mindset, so to say, that some form of failures are acceptable and some form of failures are not acceptable. As far as I'm concerned, I'm saying failure in itself, it's not acceptable. A failure is a lesson for us, to go on to the next level or to go on to the next step, learning from the mistakes that we've made at that step where we tripped or we failed or we fell. We get up, we dust ourselves up, we know how not to do it that way, and we learn from it, and then we try and do it a different way. And that's why, and if ultimately, put it that way, we do get it right after the next try, then we're successful at it. They say an expert is someone who has failed in every area of a very small part, or every area of a very small niche. So he's in a certain niche, but he's failed repeatedly in it, and that's how he becomes an expert. Because there's no way he could become an expert if he didn't learn things that won't work. Because otherwise he would know the ones that work. He wouldn't know the ones that won't work. He would only know the ones that work. But he's called an expert because he's tried every single one, and in that small niche that he's in, and he's become an expert at it. That's because every other one that he's tried that doesn't work, which was a failure, he did not, or she did not let that tie him down to that specific part of his life. And those are where you could talk about people like Thomas Edison. He tried the light bulb, 1,000 times before he got the right design that worked. Henry Ford, his Ford line of production, several times. Abraham Lincoln, how many times did he try to become president before, political office, not president, political office before, he eventually became president. This was a guy who went to war as a captain and came back demoted to a private. That's not really heard of. You go to war as a captain, come back and be sent back, as a private. And that's how it is. And at this point, it's nice to talk, as I said, to say earlier on, that it's a power of our mind. And we have that part of our mind that's a growth mindset, and then we have that part that's a fixed mindset. The people who are normally doomed to failure, who don't think anything could happen once they failed, that's the end of it, are those people who have a fixed mindset. Their mindset is so fixed, there's no availability for it to expand in one way. They're so set in their ways, they just think it's their way or the highway. They think if they try it this way one time, if it doesn't work, that's the end of it. And those are the people that you tend to see that are doomed to that actual word failure, or that are doomed to one side of the coin. But the people who have a growth mindset, they can expand. Those are people that step up to the plate every time they fall. As kids, that's why we have, as children, our children, or when we were kids, we had a growth mindset. That's why every time we dropped, we got up, and we had to keep, practicing. Is that growth mindset that makes us, experimental experts in whatever we do. So we would continually try new ways, new avenues, new doors, keep on knocking on the same door, on different doors, just keep on trying and trying and trying. That's the growth mindset, that just knows that, when our mind is not confined into our skull, or a box, it's bigger than what we could perceive. And, if we could only visualize it more enough, as long as we have our eye on a goal, no matter how we stumble forwards to get to that goal, if we get up, we're closer to that goal. If we stay there, then we've dropped at that specific spot where we gave up, and have literally given up on that goal. And I read a book, I think it was a few months ago, I can't remember what the name is, and there was a story about a lady who met Picasso, talking about being an experimental expert. She met Picasso in the market, and she recognized him and said, "Oh, Mr. Picasso, I enjoy your paintings, they're fantastic." Picasso obviously acknowledged her and said, "Oh, thank you very much," and she, dipped her hand into her bag and said, "Oh, would it be possible for you to just scribble something here, as a painting or as an autograph, so I could take home to my children and say, look, I met, Mr. Picasso?" And he said, "Sure, I will do." So, he just did a little sketch for her on a piece of paper. Lady said, "Thank you," excited. She started to walk away. And he called her back as she was walking and said, "Oh, ma'am, that would be $1 million, please." And she looked back in shock, like, $1 million? It took you 30 seconds to do this. Why are you going to charge me $1 million for it? And he said to her, "Ma'am, this took me 30 years to learn how to do it in 30 seconds. And that's the power of repetition. You keep on repeating it, and subsequently, that's the only way that we get over failure and attain that point of success. Because at every stage, as I did say to you, we will fail, but we have to fail forward. And the only way of getting over it is repeating it. Someone who misses in a penalty at a football game, he doesn't think, I miss, Champions League penalty, I'm never going to take a penalty in my life again. He's doomed himself to that. But, he thinks, well, I learn how now to position this ball properly, lace it, strike it through my laces, or put it with, strike it with my instep, or side foot it, aim my angle, focus on the ball, where I want to hit the ball. I'm going to learn all these things so that the next time I stand in this, be it a Champions League final, be it just an ordinary league final, just an ordinary league game, I'm putting that ball away regardless of where the keeper is. And you build confidence in it. That's how it goes, even with work, even with our business adventures, even as we reach out there to try and do something better in life for ourselves. We must not let nothing hold us back. We must not let that box, that word failure, hold us back. Remember, without us failing, we would never get to that success. And remember, most importantly, all our life we've been failing. We've just been failing forward. We've been failing forward to get to where we are now. For whatever business we're in, for whatever job we've been doing, for every time that we've got a rejection, it was a failure. But that rejection, we should not let it hold us down or define our life, or limit us to that position. On the other side, if we just push a little bit further, we have success waiting for us. Hope this blesses someone. If there's anything that you might find inspiring in this, or other ways in which we could overcome failure, other ways in which you've overcome failure, please, drop me a line in the comment box, or share it with somebody else so that they could be inspired from your own plight or your testimony. And hopefully, until we see you again, go out there and fail forward, because the next time you fail, you're failing into success. Good night.